All right, let's dive into this incredibly profound map of the human mind. We're starting with a question that, honestly, we've all felt but rarely know how to actually ask.
I mean, have you ever caught yourself completely zoned out while walking down a busy street? Or maybe you realized you've spent the last hour working without actually being present for a single second of it. Yeah, we've all been there. This explainer explores that exact condition of living life on autopilot, and we're looking at it through a really atmospheric source text called The Still Point of the Burning World. It's a text that doesn't just, describe our modern disconnection. It actually gives us a map for finding our way back to the present moment.
Part 1. The Illusion of Presence, or Living on Autopilot.
To really get a handle on this autopilot thing, we're going to start by meeting two characters who perfectly mirror our own constant, unexamined momentum. First up, we have Elena. She works in a downtown building, literally processing documents that describe other documents. Notice how her layers of removal from reality, describing descriptions, completely contrast with our second character, Marcus. Marcus is basically a master of the incidental. He eats a sandwich while walking just to convince himself that eating isn't his primary activity. He's literally using motion to avoid the present moment. Both of them are considered by society to be perfectly functioning adults. They're present, right? And yet they are completely absent from their own lives.
Moving on to Part 2, The Cartography of Despair, Redefining the Crisis.
So the text completely redefines what despair actually means here, using this Kierkegaardian framework. Normally, when we think of despair, we picture visible suffering, right? Someone crying, someone completely falling apart. But the text argues that no, that isn't the most common form of despair at all. True despair is the quiet, hidden crisis of simply managing your existence. It's participating, paying your bills, going to meetings, and seeming perfectly well to everyone around you, while underneath, you are entirely disconnected from the weight of your own existence. It is the absolute exhaustion of performing your life rather than actually living it.
So you might be thinking, okay, the opposite of this kind of despair must be happiness, right? Actually, no. Happiness and despair are kind of on the same horizontal plane here. The true opposite of despair, according to this cartography, is transparency. It's not about being invisible. It's about allowing the light of reality to pass completely through you. It's about being present and permeable, letting the world compose you as you actually are, without that constant, heavy armor of self-management.
All right, Part 3, Time, Space, and Tuesday, a new glossary.
To navigate this philosophical journey, we need a whole new vocabulary. Take the word Tuesday, for example. In this world, Tuesday is definitely not a day of the week. It's a quality of time. It's that deep, suspended moment where we pause and look at our lives long enough for the illusion to become transparent. It's the holding pattern where a massive internal tectonic shift begins, even if the surface of your life looks exactly the same. You can live inside a Tuesday for a fleeting moment or for 7 entire years, just like our character Elena does.
The text also brings up this fascinating spatial concept called the 12 meters, which is deeply tied to human connection and how we navigate intimacy.
And this brilliantly illustrates how true intimacy isn't just, rushing to close the gap. The 12 meters is the irreducible, honest distance between two people who have recognized each other but haven't yet complicated things with language. It tells us that sometimes the absolute most profound connection is found by courageously inhabiting that in-between space, rather than just trying to instantly eliminate it.
Part 4. Finding the Still Point, the Methodology.
Okay, to understand this methodology, let's meet a seeker named Vera and a metaphysical detective named Kolya. Vera comes to Kolya with a really specific crisis. She says she is present in every room, but she feels the here doesn't have her name on it. Kolya tells her, look, the lie in your despair is the word my. It's the exhausting, constant assumption that the self must always manage, label, and own the present moment. True freedom actually comes when you realize the present moment doesn't need your management to exist at all.
Which leads us to the title concept, the still point. We usually think of stillness as like stopping everything, just sitting alone in a quiet room doing absolutely nothing. But that's not it. The still point is the center of motion. To be the still point of the burning world isn't to be unburned or to hide from the chaos. It's to be the unconsumed center around which all the chaos organizes itself. It's a real game changer when you recognize that you and the activity of your life are not two separate things.
Part 5. The Terrifying Freedom, the Resolution.
This brings us right back to our guy, Marcus. After simply stopping to truly look at his own hand by a river wall for the first time in his life, he makes this startling discovery. In an old bookshop. Inside an annotated book, he finds this note left by a stranger decades ago. And it hits him.
his constant forward momentum, his walking while eating, his avoidance of choice, it was all a defense mechanism. He was actually absolutely terrified of his own freedom.
Marcus discovers he'd basically built himself what the text calls a cage of open doors. By refusing to commit, by keeping all his options infinitely available forever, he never made the possible actual. He used the freedom of movement to avoid making a real choice. And he realizes that keeping yourself in a state of infinite availability is practically indistinguishable from being totally trapped. True freedom requires the terrifying act of choosing one thing and letting all the other options go.
And finally, Part 6, the nature of Thursday, returning to the ordinary.
So, what does this all mean for us? How did these massive internal shifts actually fit back into our regular, ordinary lives? Because, let's be real, we can't just live in a state of philosophical revelation forever. Eventually, we have to go back to work. This is where the timeline of the text is so brilliant. If Tuesday is the deep suspension and Wednesday is the massive internal convergence, then Thursday is the unannounced integration into the ordinary. Unlike Monday's dread or Friday's anticipation, Thursday arrives quietly, without any fanfare. And the text points out that this is exactly when the most genuine, unmanaged changes take root. The real shifts happen when we are just going about our regular, everyday routine.
Take Elena, for instance. On Thursday morning, she experiences just 8 minutes of pure, completely unmanaged presence before assembling her daily identity for work. She watches a leaf fall. She feels the light. Those 8 minutes prove that true change is tectonic. It's internal. She goes back to her job processing descriptions of documents, sure, but she does it differently now. She does it from the still point.
We see this absolutely beautifully summed up in a mysterious message left on a cafe chalkboard in the text, "What you are looking for is what is looking." This is the ultimate realization of this entire explainer. You don't need to find a completely new life, abandon your job, or, move out into the woods. You just need to drop the exhausting management of the life you already have. You are already the center.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with the exact same Kierkegaardian crisis our characters faced. You exist, you are undeniably here, but what are you the here of? Are you just managing the surface, or are you ready to stop, right in the middle of continuing, drop the management, and simply be the still point of your own burning world? It's a terrifying freedom for sure, but it might just be the only way to truly arrive at your own address.